I think the way to make traditional art understood and recognized in this modern world would be by keeping it alive, keeping the story told. Make sure people understand the significance of where it came and why it's being still kept alive. I am Corey Alustin. I'm a member of the Gullah Heritage as a basket weaver, a historian, keeping the story alive within my generation. In my late teens, as I was dating my girlfriend at the time. Me being a member of the Gullah Heritage by bloodline, my family didn't do a skill set that her family did. Her family were known generationally as sweetgrass basket weavers. I am a full-time artist based off of my Gullah heritage, and then being allowed by my in-laws to pick up that skill set that they had for generations known as sweetgrass basket weaving. The skill set is more known here in the States as women only. Women are credited for keeping this skill set alive generationally since days of enslavement. If we go beyond that time of American enslavement, West Coast Africans has been making baskets for generations way before being enslaved in America. The whole part of being enslaved in America as a basket weaver is because they had the skill set of rice cultivating. And so that rice cultivation time was a voyage that was set out to seek these Africans that knew that skill set, bring them back to America, enslave them, make them work, make them grow rice. Part of making them grow rice is also making them make a basket that would clean the rice. That's the flat one right here behind me. That flat basket is the most traditional design known as a rice fanning basket. It was used during that time of rice cultivation that would allow the enslaved able to clean the rice by winnowing or throwing it up in the air, more of a thrashing motion. As the rice is bounced on the basket, the husk, the shaft would have blown away. That was the purpose for this skill set being brought here, was because of the rice cultivation. Carolina gold is what made Charleston a rich city off the back of enslaved Africans' skill set. As those Europeans came in and took the lands of America, they didn't have rice cultivating skills. Native Americans that lived here, they were not rice cultivators at all. They thrived on the ways of what they would need of that time. So that African enslavement time of the transatlantic slave trade is what brought the skill here to the Carolinas. It's also what allowed it to be kept alive, is because generationally as enslaved people, they kept it going because they were required to. I'm not showing Corey, I'm showing ancestry. As people have said, you know, Corey, we want to recognize you for this, that. They're recognizing my culture. They're recognizing my ancestry. They're recognizing what we have came from as a people of enslaved life. A sad, harsh, painful time in United States history. As I weave with the mindset of, I want them to understand where we have evolved from this working tool to now. I'm considered more of a contemporary artist. I make more of a designer pieces. And my designer pieces allow me to show where we've came, how far we've moved from the utilitarian tools of the plantation to now beautiful pieces of art. It is the place of the artist, because who's to say we can't take traditional items and turn it into art? If the artists don't do that and make it contemporary or to make it modernized, then no one will.
I feel like being an artist is a really big deal, so I don't know if I think of myself as an artist. I feel like I'm more of like a creative. I am Mariana Hay Avant. I am a jewelry designer, and I do sort of all the creative here at the store. People call me Minnie. My mom's name is Mariana also, and this is her store, so she didn't want to be Big Mariana, so I am Mini Mariana. So people call me Minnie. We're fourth generation, we're over 100 years old. My paternal grandmother taught me to love to create, and my maternal grandmother taught me the love of jewelry and getting dressed, and how fun it is to finish your outfit with jewelry. She was a powerhouse, and she kind of made our store what it is now. My mom had the wherewithal to realize that she could kind of encourage me to take my love of art and creating and turn that into jewelry. And it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. I never look at something and think it's perfect and finished and complete and ready to show the world. I kind of just tinker along and make things that I like. I think it's sort of the way art goes. It's kind of never done. You're always evolving. But I struggle with calling myself an artist because I think that's sort of a pipe dream to get to be an artist. A lot of jewelry designers find a stone and work from the stone. I kind of have an idea in my head. Usually it's something that I've seen on a walk that's inspired me. The way that a flower looks in the light, or even a fish hook on the boat on a sunny day. And I kind of work from my inspiration, that I see something and work from there. I find that my job is to sort of take what my grandmother, even my mom and my great-grandmother had created and sort of bring it into the modern times. You know, whether that's making a pin, something that people want to wear again, or big door knocker earrings, making those cool again. So it's kind of, we try to bring the things that they've taught us into the modern day. It takes a lot of patience. I'm someone that likes instant gratification, and so I really struggle with, okay, I drew this, now we're going on 6 months, I'm still waiting on the production. You know, everything takes a long time, especially when it's made by hand. You know, the jewelers are setting every single stone. And I've done a couple for like their bridesmaids, and even for them to wear on their wedding day. You put more emotion in it because it's more pressure. You know, it's something that somebody's gonna treasure and love. You wanna make sure it's right, you wanna make sure they love it. You know, you don't want it to just be something that sits in a jewelry box somewhere.
A year ago, when I turned 77, I said to myself, girlfriend, you better wake up and get going, because you don't know how many days you'll have left. I'm counting on another 20 years, and my best work is to come. My name is Marty Whe Adams. I am an oil painter. I have painted and created in every medium. This amazing house is pre-revolutionary. It's over 200 and maybe 50 years old, from the 1750s. Made by a Quaker carpenter in the 1750s. Before we knew we were going to become a country, before we had serious wealth, that it has stood here through dreadful times, weather-wise, difficult times, and it's so much. But it's very simple, it's very comfortable, it's not elegant. It's a lot like me. It's who it is, and this is who I am. It's not going to put on pretense. Over the last 3 decades, it's been like a dam crashing. Things that I was holding back, emotions, who I really was, my identity was developing, and we develop all the time. I mean, here I am at my age, 7th decade. The moment I'm talking right this minute, something is new happening inside me. And who knows what I'll paint in the next week. And I've got to make sure I'm painting my best, and that I will be proud of these paintings long after I'm dead. It's hard to see your work that you painted 30 years before and not be so proud of it. If you are afraid, you're not going to be exuberant enough in what you have to say, with bold strokes, bold ideas, bold colors. I think I want to express comfort. This is my route out of tragedy. This is how I find the comfort and joy that I'm seeking. I'm not going to be paint black. I have learned, however, that you cannot express beautiful colors when they're not against a dark background. And I have learned I cannot truly express the joyful times in my life without having had the tragic times. This garden, first of all, was created by a brilliant landscape architect, but in partner with my amazing mother, Emily Whaley, who has written a book about this garden and about living in this house. A story it has to tell. I had the blessing of being a gardener myself and her wanting me to have it. So I have maintained it since her death. And people want to see it because of her book, but they want to see it because it is also gorgeous. Before she wrote her book, it was called The Most Visited Private Garden in America. We want people to see it. We want them to be inspired by it. And so people are welcome. And it's by chance if the gate is open or if you are here between Wednesday and Sunday, it's usually available.
I never thought of myself as a Black American artist. I've always thought of myself as an artist. I know of myself as being Black, but I don't marry the two necessarily. I don't use that as a comparison for any other artist. My comparison is my ability to do what I want to do and the value of it. My name is Jonathan Green, and I'm a practicing artist for some 46 years. I'm also a social activist. I'm an educator, because I always was in the motion of creativity all of my life. And I was very natural with art, even though I didn't know it as art. I didn't know the terminology of art, but I and everyone around me knew that I could mimic. I could draw anything that I looked at. I was very much aware of the importance of art and art from and by people of the Black community, because that's what I saw the least of on the walls of any of the museums. And then it was my being introduced to the Southside Community Arts Center that I learned about the artists from the 30s and the 40s and began to understand the history and the culture, and that was the first time that African American artists and women were allowed and accepted as full right artists. Art is another valuable mental tool mentally for us to have. And when you remove art, you remove a part of a person. The person isn't whole anymore. The one thing that inmates sacrifice to do more than anything is art. What they need more than anything is art. The first thing you give to a child is materials for art. The first thing you take away from a child is the materials for art. It's not underlined, and it's a very clear message, and the message is simply that you, as you are a part of a community, a culture, a family, you have to tell your story. And if you have the talent to do art, to make art, then you need to tell that story, and you should become the shaman of your community. Because unless the art is done, the stories are not going to be told. Most people don't have the fortunate education to read, but they are gifted with knowing art and can see the story in the art. You know, the Bible became popular only because of Titian, Rembrandt, not because people were reading, because most people were illiterate. So the paintings told the story. In any great children's book, it's always about the pictures. That's why television is so popular. So of all these grasses, when I'm painting grasses, and I will use about 8 different colors, I'm on my 3rd color now. Each stroke has to be individually done. So I love painting the grasses because it's such a sense of controlled freedom. And you can only do so much of it.
Welcome to our museum in Charleston, South Carolina. Only art museum in this area. The museum was built in 1905. It is the oldest art museum structure in the South. So we begin our story with one of the earliest artists in our collection. Her name is Henrietta Johnston, and she's considered the first female artist in America. Because of her skills as an artist, which she learned abroad, most likely in France, she was paid for the small portraits that she created, and this is an example of one of them. The Gibbs Museum has the third largest miniature portrait collection in the country. It offers an opportunity for people to see the private side of 18th and early 19th century Americans. These objects were never meant to be seen by you or I. They were private portraits that were meant for loved ones, particularly people that you might not see for years because of travel or work, or even because of an early death. But these objects are almost jewel-like in their creations. We have over 650 pieces in our collection, and they are mostly packages where the portrait, made out of watercolor on ivory, usually, are then sandwiched within a locket or a bracelet or a small leatherette case, having little sayings or letters behind them before the back is put on, having also hair entwined in the back so that they are even more precious and possess something of the individual that they picked. One of our first African-American artists, Edwin Harleston, who was born in Charleston. He studied at the MFA in Boston and then eventually came back to Charleston after doing a stint of working with Aaron Douglas on the Fisk murals in Nashville, Tennessee. He was an exceptional artist, but unfortunately, because of his color, opportunities for commissions in the South were very difficult. He created this portrait of Aaron Douglas, who was basically his mentor during his time when they were working on the murals together. But then eventually, Edwin Harleston became a very important figure in the development of the NAACP in Charleston, South Carolina. With the Depression, of course, came new social awareness, and many artists had their first chance to work as artists because of the Works Progress Administration, the WPA. This was a government program during the Depression to help artists actually feed themselves. Artists were recruited across the country and paid a salary to create works that identified America. Artists like Hale Woodruff, who created a series of images that were very critical of the South and its treatment of African Americans. And more recent acquisitions, it's a tremendous collage entitled They Combined Beauty, created in 2015, and speaks to the whole story of African American saga in our country.